welcome to Market Pulse by Daily FT and SC Securities. Our effort is to give you a better pulse about the equity markets of Sri Lanka. And today, our focus is with one of the most prominent conglomerate of Sri Lanka. We are privileged and honored to have with us today Mr. Krishan Balendra, the chairman of John Keells Holdings PLC. Krishan, welcome to Market Pulse.
Thank you.
Krishan, to start off the conversation, now John Keells is the trailblazing conglomerate of Sri Lanka. And John Keells is over 7 different industries and with 70 different companies. And to start off, can you briefly tell us about the unique journey of John Keells so far?
Yes, the company was founded going back over 150 years by 2 Englishmen. It was a tea and rubber produce broking company. In the 60s and 70s, the organization started diversifying into key growth areas of the economy, into travel, into ports logistics, and so on. Then in the 90s, the group acquired the Vitol's Group, which was a leading organization at the time. And with that, the company entered the consumer business with the Elephant House, acquiring the Elephant House brand, started Keells supermarkets, and so on. The first listing of a group company was in the 1970s, and today's parent, John Keells Holdings, was listed in the 1980s. But if I look at what makes the organization unique today, apart from the scale as one of the largest conglomerates in the country, it is that it is a truly professionally run organization. The company is not owned or controlled by a family or by a foreign parent company. It is broadly owned by thousands of shareholders. There's no controlling shareholder. The board of directors are independent. Majority of the directors are independent directors, and the management is totally professional. And it is a meritocracy. You can join at the lowest level and reach the highest level. And with that professionalism, you have performance management systems where your performance in the organization and your achievements in the organization is entirely driven by your achievements and by your performance. On top of that, I think what also makes us unique is that we have a high female representation. And it is something that we encourage in the organization, and we see that growing further going forward. There is also a lot of focus on governance, being a broadly owned company, a lot of focus on community service, especially in the areas that we operate in, and also on the environment. And recently, with some of the advances we've seen in the IT and digital space, our businesses are evolving fast in the digital space. And also, we have a big group-wide initiative in data. And I see the organization decisions being data-driven going forward. So in many ways, unique and fast evolving. But I think what is truly unique, if I was to pick one single thing about our journey that is unique, is that we are a broadly owned organization and truly professionally run, which is something rare.
Absolutely, that's something that we see in the stock market. John Keells is owned by thousands of shareholders, not by one single family.
Yes.
And Krishan, if I may ask now, COVID-19 pandemic has been an unprecedented challenge all over the world. But however, the John Keells Group was very well structured to face this kind of a pandemic, because there are some companies which would have been benefited with the pandemic situation, and while some companies and some businesses badly getting affected. So how does John Keells Group face the pandemic so far?
I think because we are a diversified conglomerate, we were better able to face the pandemic. The leisure hotels business, the cinnamon hotels business on our travel side is a large part of the group, but we also have some other large businesses. Our supermarkets, our consumer businesses, the soft drinks and ice cream, ports business, the insurance, financial services, banking. those businesses continued to perform well. There was disruption during the lockdowns, but generally, the moment the lockdowns were lifted, and even during the lockdowns, the businesses continued to do well. It is only really the hotel business that has been badly impacted throughout. And even in the hotel business, we have 4 hotels in the Maldives, and the Maldives recovered very quickly. So from around mid this year and for some parts of last year, the hotels in the Maldives did very well, and right now they are doing extremely well, even better than pre-pandemic. So I think being diversified has been a very positive feature for us in this pandemic environment. But the other reason that we have continued to do well, I think, goes back to my response to your first question, that we are a professionally run organization, a meritocracy. We have some very talented and very resilient people who truly stepped up in this difficult environment. And I think that also played a big role in the resilience of the group in this difficult time.
As you correctly touched upon, the leisure sector got affected the most. So, how is the future plan for leisure sector? The Maldives, as you said, is picking up. What about Sri Lanka, and what's the future plan for the leisure sector?
Yeah, so the Maldives, as I said, is now back to normal, and actually looking at the forward bookings from December, it may even turn out to be better than normal, and that is despite China being closed, and China is generally the biggest market into the Maldives. In Sri Lanka, we are seeing a gradual pickup since the lockdowns were lifted. I think the very high vaccination rate is encouraging and seen as a positive by the markets outside. Our forward bookings are getting better weekly. So I'm optimistic about the leisure business as well. I don't think it will rebound as quickly as the Maldives, but it will come back. And by February, March next year, we should see a much stronger performance than what we've seen with the pandemic impact.
That's not too far.
Not too far, yes.
Okay, and if I take your attention to the property sector, the property business, the iconic development of Cinnamon Life project comes up with the concept of a city within a city. And if I may ask, what is the current situation of the Cinnamon Life project, and where does it stand?
The Cinnamon Life project, as you can see, it's a very large development, over 4 million square feet. There are 2 apartment blocks with about 430 apartments, an office tower with 24 floors, about 240,000 square feet, an 800-room hotel, about 4 or 5 ballrooms, and a shopping mall, all connected. And we have now completed the 2 apartment towers and the office complex. The office complex now has an anchor tenant who has taken a majority of the space. The apartments, we have started handing over a few months back, 1 tower. The other tower we'll start handing over in the next couple of weeks. So that is where we are with those towers. The hotel, we expect, will be operational towards the end of next year, around October next year, together with the mall.
Okay, so there's another unique feature of this project, which is the entertainment zone.
Yeah.
And if you can give us a little introduction and elaboration on that,
Yeah.
How does it go?
Yeah, the building was designed with a space for gaming, and that is a space where the hotel connects with the mall. It's actually part of the mall, but it seamlessly flows into the hotel as well. So we are looking at, it's not a business that we are in, but we are looking at renting out space for a gaming operation. We will be the landlord, but one prerequisite for us to do that is that there must be a proper legal framework and regulations for gaming. And if that were to happen, we will look at renting the space out, because the building has been designed like that. And we think it's a big opportunity for tourism for this country. So subject, as I said, to the right regulations and the right legal framework, it is something that we will look to do. But we will be a landlord, because it's not a business that we are in.
So you're waiting for the regulatory.
Yes.
Okay. And now, given that Cinnamon Life project is fast moving towards maturity, the HPL properties where Cinnamon Lakeside and Cinnamon Grand is placed with, um, does it provide a opportunity for you to do a strategic rethink about these projects, or what's the
Yeah.
future plan for
That's something that we are asked quite often. I think it really depends on the view we take on the outlook for the city. Colombo today has about 5,000 star class rooms. A lot of new rooms have been added in the last few years with the end of the war. But really, if you compare that number to some of the cities in the region, you can see there is a long way to go to catch up with cities like Jakarta, KL, Bangkok. And I said Colombo has 5,000 rooms, but KL has 50,000 rooms. Bangkok has 60,000 rooms. Jakarta has 25 to 30,000 rooms. So there is, and look at the tourism numbers. Sri Lanka at the peak in 2018, we had about 2.3 million foreign tourist arrivals. The island of Bali, small island, in 2019 had 7 million arrivals. Vietnam gets over 15 million tourists. Bangkok is 35 to 40 million. So, when you look at Cinnamon Grand and Cinnamon Lakeside, and we will have 800 rooms at Cinnamon Life. So people ask us the question, but really we are positive about the potential for the city and the potential for tourism. So, it is likely that we will continue, and this is a core business for us. We will continue to own the properties and develop them and refurbish them and position them. But of course, we are very disciplined about financial returns as well. And if we feel at some point that we can't achieve our minimum returns on capital, then we may look at exiting. But for now, we have a positive outlook, and it's a business that we'll continue to invest in.
There's still more room to grow.
Still more room to grow. Yes.
And also, Krishan, John Keells recently entered into an agreement with the Adani Group to develop the Western Container Terminal of the port. And what are the developments with this regard so far? And how does this project support or contribute to the bottom line of John Keells?
Yeah, so we expect to start construction of the terminal early next year, possibly in January. The first phase of the project could be completed within 24 months. So some part of it can be operational within 24 months. The Adani Group, why the Adani Group? They are really the only large port operator in India. And if you look at the volumes at the Colombo port, a majority, over 80% of our volume is transshipment, and about 70% of the transshipment goes to India, or their boxes from India. So it was important to get an Indian port operator involved in the Colombo port, investing in the Colombo port, so that you have the synergies and you build the partnerships. So the West Terminal is a deep water terminal that can cater to the largest modern ships. The Colombo port is the ideal location for transshipment to India, as you can see with the volume growth we have seen over the last few years. So looking at that, we are confident that with this new capacity that we add, there will be demand, the capacity will be absorbed, and that we will get returns that are in line with our return hurdles. So we think it's an attractive investment.
And are there any other avenues that you are looking to with the Adani Group as well?
Nothing specific at the moment that I can comment on. They are one of the largest business groups in India. So if there are other opportunities, we will look at it, but nothing specific at the moment.
Okay. And Krishan, now if I may take your attention back to the finance sector, when it comes to the NTB and Union Assurance, where does the future takes for these two companies?
Financial services is a core business for us. We are a promoter shareholder of Nations Trust Bank. We have a 90% stake in Union Assurance, which is one of the largest life insurers in the country. And we believe that financial services will continue to grow as the economy grows. Not only banking, but insurance and other forms of financial services. And just to pick life insurance as an example, the penetration rate in Sri Lanka is very low. So there is tremendous potential for growth. And it is a core business. We've been in it for many decades, and it's something we will continue to invest in. So it will be a core part of the group.
And what about the retail sector? That is one of the very strong avenues of John Keells.
Yes,
what's the future for that?
Supermarket sector, again, we were one of the first groups to enter the supermarkets business, but we didn't really expand the business until about 6-7 years ago. Today we have 125 or so stores, or close to 130 stores, and it is a big growth area. There is no question. If you look at Sri Lanka 15 years ago, there were a handful of supermarkets. Today in Colombo and the suburbs, every 500 meters there is a supermarket. But there is still a lot of room for growth. If you take the island, the country, about 15 to 20% of grocery consumption happens in the modern format, in the supermarket format. But you look in the region, a country like Thailand, which is also quite a rural country, or a country like Malaysia, supermarkets account for 50% of grocery consumption. So while we have seen tremendous growth from nothing to where we are today, there is a lot of scope for this to grow over the next so many years. And it's a core business for us. We, as you know, are a leading player in supermarkets. We will expand the chain aggressively. We are just completing a new distribution center, which will improve availability and quality in our stores. And we are doing a lot of work on the supply chain, a lot of work on partnering with farmers to improve the quality of our fresh. So you will see the offering improve, standards improve, and I think we will see the continued conversion to the modern format from the pullers and the mom and pop stores. So big growth business for us.
And now it's online as well.
And online as well, yes. That will also grow.
Okay. And in a slightly different note, Krishan, John Keells is the darling of the foreign investors when it comes to Colombo Stock Exchange. Now, but recently, the past rally, we have seen that the foreign investors have been the net sellers and they're moving out of the market. So how do you see these developments, and what's the future of foreign investments in the Colombo Stock Exchange?
I think the foreigners have really driven the market from the early 90s when foreign investment was allowed into the market. And an organization like John Keells, company like John Keells, we have regularly raised capital from the market to fund our investments. And we have had very high levels of foreign ownership. Today, about 30 to 35% of the company is owned by foreign institutions mainly. And we have some leading foreign institutions like Fairfax of Canada, the Schroders Investment Group, Aberdeen, Edgbaston, and so on, which are leading emerging markets institutions who are our shareholders. So the recent decline in foreign participation and the net selling has depressed our share price. And this is a phenomenon we've seen in the last 6 or 7 years, partly because of the issues we've had in the country, not just the pandemic, but before that we had the bomb attacks, but also some issues around inconsistent tax policy, which has been seen negatively by foreign investors. And also now the current macro issues and the concerns about the currency. So it's something that is a negative development, not just for JKH, but for other blue chip companies and other liquid stocks which the foreigners invested in. But I'm confident that as the macro situation stabilizes and there is more confidence in the stability of the currency, that the foreigners will return. Sri Lanka companies have attractive growth prospects and the valuations are attractive. And I think as the world comes out of the pandemic, the foreign emerging markets funds will return to frontier markets like Sri Lanka, and foreign participation will pick up. So I think that is an important development for the stock market, and important for corporates like JKH and the banks, for example, that need to keep raising capital to buffer their capital ratios. So I'm hopeful that the foreigners will come back, and I think it's important for us that they come back.
So in your opinion, how far it is into the future?
Difficult to say how many weeks or months or years, but I think it's not far off. We need a little more macro stability, more confidence, and I think as the world comes out of the pandemic, that will happen. You will have more foreign participation in this market.
And as we mentioned at the beginning, there are about more than 70 companies under John Keells wings. And while there are few listed companies under the John Keells wings, there's a lot of privately held companies. So given the situation of the highly developed IPO market, which is getting more than higher valuations at these days, do you have any plans of getting any of your privately held companies to be listed?
Most of the companies we see as growth businesses, and we will continue to invest in those companies. And there is nothing specific at the moment where we are looking to IPO. We have a very sharp focus on return on capital, and if there is a business that we feel in the medium to long term can't achieve our return on capital hurdles, we will look to divest those businesses. And we have done that in the past, like we exited our mushroom export business, our aquariums business, our plantations businesses. So we will do that going forward as well. But at the moment, there is nothing specific, no company that we are looking to IPO.
And also, Krishan, now John Keells is a company with a magnitude where it works by contributing to the considerably to the GDP, and as well as giving a lot of employment opportunities. So, as a company in that magnitude, what would you expect from the policymakers for the betterment of the businesses?
I think very short answer to that is just a stable environment with consistent policy. We are not asking for incentives. The private sector can do it, but as long as the environment is stable and as long as policy is consistent over a period of time. That is one.
Stability and the consistency.
Stability and consistency.
And also at the moment, there are many economic challenges the country is facing. Now, if I say like currency devaluation, depletion of reserves, the import restrictions, and also the downgradings are just few of them. So, John Keells, as a group, how do you maneuver through these challenges?
Yeah, I think we have a lot of experience in maneuvering through a difficult environment because we continue to operate through 25 years of war. And we did fairly well through the 25 years of war. So a lot of experience managing in difficult times. We had bomb attacks in the city just outside our hotels. And so if we could have maneuvered through that, I think we can maneuver through a lot. So currently, yes, we've had the pandemic. Prior to that, we had the bomb attacks in April 2019. Pandemic has been unprecedented. We had the tsunami in 2004. But we've learned to manage, and as we discussed earlier, we've learned to be resilient. We have an excellent team who really step up when it is needed. And going forward as well, I'm confident the pandemic will be behind us soon. There will be more macroeconomic stability in the country, and we will come out of this. And I think, as we have done over many decades, the group will continue to do very well.
That's the confidence the maturity brings in.
Yes, and I think the experience of operating in a difficult environment, I think that will hold us in good stead going forward as well.
Great. And Krishan, last but not least, if I may ask, where do you see John Keells in 5 years?
I think it will be a much larger organization. In the last few years, we have invested heavily, like in the Cinema Life project, in refurbishing and redeveloping a lot of our hotel properties, in new supermarkets, in a new ice cream plant. We are continuing to invest in new supermarkets. We now have the West Terminal project. So I see that we will be a much larger group in terms of revenue and profitability, but also a much more modern group. I think there will be much greater digitization of our businesses. As I said, we have a big data analytics initiative in the group. So a lot of our decision making going forward will be data driven. We have a focus on improving the gender balance. I think there will be a lot more women working at John Keells. Environmentally friendly businesses, good governance, social consciousness. So I think a premium conglomerate in every sense of the word, not just in terms of revenue and profitability, but in terms of technology, data analytics, and ESG. So a modern premium conglomerate.
That sounds very much of a very bright future forward.
Yes, it is.
All right, great. So thank you so much, Krishan, for being with us here today, despite your busy schedule. Thank you so much. And we are very much honored to have you with us today. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And thank you very much for watching Market Pulse, and we will be back soon with another exciting episode.